Hello, my name is Dr. Dan Wedding, and this is DrWedding VB03 Hello World. And in this video, you are going to learn about projects, forms, objects, and properties. To write a Visual Basic program, you are going to need to open a project. Think of a project like a suitcase. It will hold all the items that make up the program. By default, the project will have a blank form already included in it. This will be the visual interface for your program. Objects, such as buttons, labels, and text boxes, are then added to the form. How the form and the added objects are displayed can be changed by altering their properties. Some properties include the location on the screen, the displayed text, the foreground color, the background color, or the size of the object. This is as far as this video will go. In the upcoming videos, I will cover adding the code section and the subroutines that correspond to the objects on the screen. This is just a fancy way of saying we'll write code that will run when a button is pressed or a checkbox is checked. We will also learn how to embed our own objects, such as images, sounds, and files. By adding objects to the project, they will be included when the project is moved from computer to computer, so that there are no broken links. We will also cover how to add multiple forms to a project along with their corresponding code sections. While we are creating this first Visual Basic program, there are some important points that you will need to pay particularly close attention to. After we have finished the Visual Basic program, these key points will be outlined and displayed on the screen to help you out. Let's get started. It is assumed that you have already installed the compiler. If you have not, please go back to DrWedding VB02. The compiler has been installed on this machine. I have also created a VB Files folder on the desktop, and it will be used to store my projects. Currently, there is one subfolder. It contains the setup file that was used to install the compiler. It can also be used to modify the existing installation. If you're wondering why I put an exclamation point at the start of the folder name, it was there to keep it at the top of the folder list. When a name is sorted from high to low, the exclamation point is alphabetically before the capital letters, and the capital letters are alphabetically before the lowercase letters. The alphabetic order is determined by a method of storing the information called ASCII, the American Standard Code of Information Interchange. Although this is important, it will not be covered at this time. Let's open Visual Studio so we can create our first Visual Basic program. Visual Studio will ask you to sign in or create an account. I'm going to skip this for now. It will also ask you what theme you want. I'm going to use Light. This is where we are going to create our first project. Select Create a New Project. At this point, you're going to see a lot of different templates for a lot of different types of projects. To minimize our search, we're going to go to the language and select Visual Basic. Our platform is going to be Windows, and our project type is going to be Desktop. This has eliminated a lot of the projects, but not all of them. We still need to find the one we need to use. The one we're going to use is going to be the one that reads Windows Form App using the .NET framework. After we use this one time, this template will show up in the list over here and will be easy to find. I'm going to rename my project to something that's easy for me to remember. VB03 Hello World. At this point, I want to give you a warning. Always keep your project name easy and short, and don't use any special characters. For example, you can create a project name that includes a comma. However, if you do this and you start running your program, it will eventually crash, the program will be corrupt, and it will be unrecoverable. In my humble opinion, this is a bug. Microsoft should stop you from putting a comma in the project name. However, it doesn't. I've seen many students lose their work because they gave the class name, they put a comma, and added a lab afterwards. After I select an easy name, I'm going to move to the location. I can browse to any location I want. I'm going to select the folder I left on my desktop. Now that I've selected a name and a location, I'm going to create my project. Congratulations, you've just created your first Visual Basic program. So first, we're going to go up to the View tab, and we're going to open up the toolbox. View, Toolbox. This will open up the toolbox, and behind the toolbox are a list of arrow or drop-down menus. We're going to drop down all Windows Forms. These are all the objects that can be added to this form when we write a program. Next, we're going to go back up to the View menu and select Properties window. That opens up the Properties window down here. The Properties window shows you all the properties that you can change for the selected item. The selected object currently is the form itself. So what I'm going to do is change the size and go back over to the Properties window and make sure that my properties are alphabetized. You can choose other methods, but this is the one I prefer. Next, I'm going to go down to the text property. If it isn't showing up on your machine, just scroll down to it. There's the text property. We're going to change the text to read Hello World. This is the text which appears at the top of the program. Next I'm going to do is I'm going to change the background color of this form. I do that by going to the back color property right here, and I'm going to select this drop down arrow. And this gives me three choices: system colors, web colors, or custom colors. The system colors are the colors that are chosen by your theme in Windows. If you change your theme, the colors change. The web colors are the web-safe colors used on the internet, and the custom colors are whatever you want. I'm going to choose the background color to be this light green. Next, I'm going to add a label to the form. The label will be dragged onto the form, and you'll see it's called Label 1. If I were to add a second label, it would be Label 2, then Label 3, and so on. I don't actually want to see the word Label 1. I want to change its text property. So I select the label. I go over to the Properties window, noting that it's changing the label properties. I'm going to slide down to text, and I'm going to change that to Hello World. You'll notice it changed on the form. Now I'm going to slide up, and I'm going to go to the font property. When I select the font property, I can pull up a window that looks just like what you would use in Word. So I can change the font type to anything I want, such as Arial. I can make it or narrow or italicized or bold. I can change the font size to 28 and hit OK, and now I have this big hello world in the middle of my form. If I want to change the color of the font, I would use the foreground color. The foreground color is right below the font. I'm going to select it, and I'm going to choose a custom color such as red. At this point, I already have a working program. To run the program, all I need to do is press the Start button. And there it is, my first program, Hello World. Hello World is a very common program used as the first program in every programming language that people are taught. The reason for this is because usually writing something to the screen is so easy that somebody can't mess it up. Hello World is there to actually test the software you've downloaded or if your compiler is working correctly. It's not really to test your abilities as a programmer. Let's save and exit. We'll go to File and we'll hit Save All. This is warning number 2. Under the File menu, you'll see Save Form As. Never ever use Save Form As. Many people rightfully confuse this with Save As. When you use Save As in Word or in Excel or in any other program, you can actually save a second copy with a new name. That is not what this does. You will lose your program if you choose Save Form As. You do not want to use that, ever. Only use Save All and then close the program. To reopen the project, we can do it 2 different ways. First, you can go to the actual project and you'll see your project is right here, VB03 Hello World. I enter the folder. You'll see that there's another file named Hello World and a solution. Just double click on the solution and the program will launch. On occasion, you may reopen a project and the form might be missing, like this. If that's the case, go over to the Solution Explorer and just double click on the form and it will come back. The other way you can open up the project is to reopen Visual Studio and select the recently opened program. If you wish to move this project to a flash drive or make a copy of it, just go to the actual project and copy it. This copy can be used as the starting point for your next project or as a backup. These project files can be moved onto a flash drive if you need to transport them to another computer. In review, the project template is Windows Form App using the .NET framework. Do not use special characters in your project name. The first time you use Visual Studio to write a Visual Basic program, pull down the View menu and open the toolbox. Then, pull down the View menu and open the Properties window. When you are finished, pull down the File menu and select Save All. Do not use Save Form 1 VB as. To copy or back up the project, browse to the folder where it is stored. The project folder can be copied or moved depending on your needs. To reopen a project, open the project folder and double-click on the SLN file. Or open Visual Studio and select the SLN file from the Open Recent list. If you find these videos useful, please like and subscribe. It is the only way I can continue to make these videos.